Hey guys, I'm Sam Crack, and I gotta admit to you that my auction car buying has gotten completely out of control. Recently, a friend of mine asked, how many cars do you have now? And I didn't know the answer to it. I sat down a little later and tallied up each car. I have cars that are parked at friends' houses, cars that are parked in other states, at shops. It's overwhelming, but the number that I came up with was 24. One person attempting to maintain 24 cars, it's nearly impossible. So I went online and I started listing them one by one, and I actually sold 7 in the last 30 days or so, which is a step in the right direction. But it dawned on me that 2 of the 7 that I sold never really made the light of this channel, and that's because not every car that I end up buying is suitable for, say, a build series or dumping any sort of money into. The first one was a Twin Turbo V8 BMW that I bought under $3,000 and I thought I had absolutely stolen it. That is until I went back, looked at the auction photos after winning the bid and paying for the car and noticing some writing in the windshield that told me, well, pretty much everything I needed to know about that car. The second was a 2000 Cadillac Crystal Coach, aka a hearse. This car was awful. Not only was it a disaster itself, it came with the stigma of owning a hearse. The second the hearse was delivered, I encountered a ton of issues with everything but the hearse itself. It was by far the worst auction car I've ever purchased, and I know you're thinking, this sounds really bad, and it was, and I'm gonna tell you about it in just a moment, but I'd like to start things off on a positive note and tell you about something that sounds really good, and those are these Raycon Everyday E25 earbuds. When I put them in, I don't just hear future, I become future. I'm a hoarder with my cars. Way too many inside that barn. Broken Rover, dead Ferrari,
At around half the price of other boutique audio brands, Raycon's wireless earbuds pack crisp, bassy sound in a compact charging case. This case will recharge the buds 4 times over, keeping you with power to listen all day. And with the included 5 sets of ear tips, you're sure to have a perfect fit.
These are the smallest and lightest wireless earbuds I've ever used, which means they're the most comfortable, and I'll keep them in for hours while I'm wrenching on a car, which leaves me with both of my hands free to get work done. If a call comes in, well, I just tap this button here once on the side. That'll pick up the call. When I'm done, tap one more time. That'll hang up the call, and my music will just keep on going. I highly recommend you guys check out Raycon at buyraycon.com/samcrack, or just click my link in the description box below. And while you're there, you'll be treated to 15% off
your very own pair of Raycon Everyday E25 wireless earbuds.
And of course, I gotta give a huge thanks to Raycon for their continued support in sponsoring this video. Now, this platform came out nearly a decade ago, and when it did, I was very interested to learn more and to one day buy one of these cars. This is a 2011 550i. 550i on this generation car means it has a twin turbo V8, and you know that BMW twin turbos are always underrated from the factory, super powerful, and this car I think made around 400 horsepower. That's what it said on paper. They were very quick, and with a tune you could easily make them at M5 power levels, and since it's a BMW 5 Series, the resale values tank in just a few years. Now, when I saw the auction photos, I saw everything you're seeing now, a car that looked to be in excellent shape, and I kind of ignored a bunch of warning signs about how unreliable these cars really are, specifically anything that comes with this 50i on it. It could be a 5 Series, it could be a 7 Series. The early platform cars were horrendous. Now, I put a pre-bid of around $4,000 on this car, thinking there's no way I'd win it. And when I got the email that I had won it for only $2,700, I was wondering what in the heck happened here. Who did I rip off? I mean, $2,700 for this. I mean, just this engine cover's got to be a fortune. Just the parts prices alone in this car, these headlights with these LEDs. And then I saw this message on the window in the photos. I mean, this is something I completely glanced over the first time I saw it, and to be fair, this was at a dealer auction. It was not a salvage auction where they kind of just go and put some random photos up. You don't get a full look at the car. Now, before I attempted to start this car, I kind of went through it. The battery was dead from sitting so long, and while we were getting to the battery, I noticed in the trunk was this. This is the undershield right underneath the engine. You could see it's soaked in oil. So we got underneath the car and we pulled the drain plug because, well, again, if it's got a blown engine, let's see what comes out of that blown engine. And I'm going to bring you back to the day that happened.
So we're gonna go ahead and pull the drain bolt and see what we got inside of it. The car says no oil, but I'm curious if there's any like thing at the bottom here. Maybe we can see some metal shavings or something.
Yeah, that's exactly what I want to know. Is there metal shavings?
This car's not too bad though.
Oh,
Wow, nice little crack.
very
There's
little.
definitely no oil in there.
Looks clean too, like they already, you know.
It's a real easy pan to drop. I'm shocked. Oh, what was that?
What was that?
And if you ever do an oil change, there's a little washer that falls out.
Yeah. I thought that we had a chunk of metal from the engine. I was excited for a second. All right here I have a brand new quart of oil. This is just cheap stuff that I buy at the auto parts store when it goes on sale. This is not the appropriate oil for this car, but just to see if it runs, it's not gonna matter much. Mike's underneath making sure that it's just not coming out from somewhere else. With 1 quart in, we've got 5 more sitting right here. I've got more in the truck, but this has like an 8.5, 9 quart capacity. I think 6 quarts is good enough just to test start this thing. We're not gonna drive it without full capacity, and it will leave us a little bit more room in the case that we got good news here that maybe it smokes or maybe something else is happening. Maybe we need to add some additives. We're gonna figure it out. So let's just put these 5 quarts in. 6 quarts of oil in. I'm gonna start the truck up here and we're gonna jump start this thing, see if it runs. Exciting moment here. Key in my hand, foot on the brake. Mike is outside to warn us in case it starts spurting oil out somewhere. 3, 2, 1. Battery's dead. Let's see here. I'm gonna hold the start button this time. Battery is dead. Or it's locked up, one or the other. 2 jumpers again, key in the hand, foot on the brake. Might be locked up. After doing that little bit of diagnosing, figuring out that this had a genuinely bad engine, one that you would never want to bring back to life because it would cost you so much in time and parts, you'd be better off buying a used one. Or what I ended up finding out is that these engines were so unreliable, every single one of them. Not only was there a campaign at the BMW dealerships, you could take it in and they do a little bit of diagnosing for you and refurbish some of the failure points in this engine. This one's past 100,000 miles, so it really wouldn't qualify for anything under the campaign. But the price of a long block from BMW with a warranty, a brand new one, was dropped drastically. Normally, if you go to the dealership and try and buy a V8 long block, they charge you 5 figures. You can go to the dealership, anybody can walk in, and they'll order you one for around $3,000. So you technically could pull this engine, put a new long block in it, and transfer everything over. The heads would have to be rebuilt because one of the major failure points in here were the valve seals. It's a ton of work. If it was just $3 grand, I could throw out the car and it would be up and running again. We'd clean it up. I mean, this is a really, really nice car, but it's just simply not worth it. There's a silver lining here. I ended up selling it for a little bit more than I paid. So like I already told you, the winning bid on this car was $2,700. With fees, with shipping, it ran a little bit over $3 grand. It was pretty close to me. That's why shipping was so cheap. Now, once we figured that this wasn't worthy of really any sort of long-term video project, I went ahead and I listed it in what I thought is the most responsible and fairest place to list it. That's the salvage auction. This has a clean title, just has a bad engine. And I listed it specifically as a mechanically damaged, not running car. I gave them all the information. And it sold for right around 4,000 bucks. Again, I had over $3 grand into it. By the time I paid that auction, I made a couple $100 on it. Nothing notable, and that wasn't my intentions. My intentions was to sell this car to somebody who could use it. Now, if you really, really wanted to have a nice condition car with a whole entire rebuild engine, this is a great platform because again, it has a clean title. But if you just look at some of the stuff on this car and the condition of it, again, you've already kind of seen around, but I couldn't see a single scratch on any of these wheels. The tires are like new. Just in wheels and tires, you've got $500-600 here. Every single component you look at is money, especially one of the huge money items, the headlights. There's over $1,000 in headlights alone on this because it has those optional LEDs. The grills are even in good shape. The engine core itself's got to be worth darn close to $1,000 bucks. And then you got a full interior. So at $3,000, this was an absolute steal. The next guy paying $4,000 for it, I think he even got a good deal, and I think it's worth a lot in parts. Now, a lot of you guys have asked me in the past when I have a junk car left over, like after the DXP rebuild, or I have a car like this, you say, why don't you break it down and sell it for parts? And that's because it's a very time-consuming and labor-intensive job. Now, taking a car down, once you start pulling the front end off, you have room to move into the engine side of things, and you have time in the interior once you start pulling the seats out and everything. It gives you a lot of room to just break a car down to nothing, but then you have to store those parts somewhere. You obviously want to keep them in good condition, and you could just imagine where it goes from there. That's why there are people in the business to break cars apart and to sell those parts, and they make great money doing so, but you need a lot of space and you need some extra hands around to help you with that. Personally, it would take too much time away from me doing this to break a car like this apart, but again, just to recoup my $3,000, I think I could get a lot of that back quickly, and then I'd have a car sitting here. So I'm glad to sell it to the next guy. I hope he enjoys it, whether he ends up rebuilding the engine, which is definitely a possibility, or whether he just breaks it down for parts to make some money. The 550i was the perfect refresher course to me, and when it's appropriate to cut your losses. When the car showed up with the note written on the windshield, well, I thought for sure I had immediately lost. Then I found out about the cheap short block, and I said, well, here's the easy way out. Once it's fixed, it'll be worth $12,000. And no, that's not the appropriate way out either. You know that once you start tearing into a Twin Turbo V8 BMW, that you're gonna find a whole lot more wrong, and that's just gonna add very rapidly to the bottom line of the car, and you're gonna be in it. What you could just go and pick up a local one, whether it's at a dealer or on the classified section. I've seen them as cheap as $10,000. Ones that have been serviced at the dealership with the campaign, which in some cases they have that replacement short block already in them, and they've got a little bit of extra warranty left on them. So yeah, getting rid of that car, moving it, and actually eking out a tiny profit is proof that you can turn a loss into a very small gain. But let's be honest, especially when it comes to cars, it hardly ever happens like this. There's an old saying that goes, play a stupid game and win a stupid prize. That's exactly what happened when I bought the hearse. I was traveling to Chicago to meet with my good friend Alex and also see the finished Lamborghini Gallardo purple paint job. So something that was super exciting, and Alex brought up, hey, maybe we should get a quick project, something we can work on while you're here, something we can turn around quick and then, you know, get rid of quick. And he had mentioned the Cadillacs with the bad head gaskets or the head bolt issues. I typed in the year range of these Cadillacs, hit enter, and what popped up? This hearse is what was local to him. And I saw it and said, man, that could be the project right there. And Alex had no clue that I was researching this. He didn't know anything about this hearse. I just kind of kept it silent, and my plan was to win the car for next to nothing, which is what it ended up selling for, buy it and drive it straight to his house from the airport, literally get out and surprise him. But it didn't quite happen like that. Since the car literally sold, I think I won it for about $200 first go around. The auction didn't accept the price. Then the next go around, I won it for $300. The next time, around the same amount. Finally, they end up releasing the car for like hundreds of dollars. Mind you, you have to pay hundreds of dollars on top of it because of auction fees. But by the time I won it, I was leaving Chicago to come back home. Now, I owned a hearse, but I didn't have any simple way of taking delivery. So I ended up paying a delivery driver several $100s to bring it home. Now I'm in this hearse well over $1,000, and well, it ended up costing me quite a bit more than that because it seems since day one that thing showed up, a bunch of things started going wrong. Here, let me take you back to the best day in my life with that hearse, the day I went to go deliver it to its new owners. I'm gonna show you a little bit around the car, and then I'll tell you exactly what ended up happening after that car was delivered. This huge mistake is a 2000 Cadillac Crystal Coach, AKA a DeVille professional chassis. This is what they use to convert a regular Cadillac into either a limousine or in this case, a hearse. Now it has the word Superior on the side of it. I believe that has to do with the branding of the company that does these conversions. This thing is massive. You can see it takes up the pretty much entire length of my trailer. And I've had a Range Rover on this. I've had a Porsche Cayenne on it. If you pull them all the way up front, which you're not really supposed to drive a trailer with a car all the way up front, they only come up to about here. This thing is huge. And what you really realize is what they did as far as the reinforcement of the body here. It is all solid, what feels like fiberglass. It is not metal, and these bumpers are massive, thick pieces of fiberglass. You've got the Superior logo right here. And this is some sort of like stitched vinyl. You've got this kind of velour ordeal with the logo, and then you've got the curtains that at this point, 20 years old, they're all discolored, kind of gross. And then, of course, you got the rollers that you would roll in, you know, when you go to the Home Depot and you get a bunch of 4x8s. It makes it really easy. I mean, this is a great utilitarian station wagon, essentially. You've got the sides that, again, have that stitched vinyl. And again, since it's one of the old school style limousines, you do have rear doors that if it were a limousine, you have seats back there. But these side doors just allow you access, again, to the interior where that massive base is that you roll, whatever you end up rolling in there. I can't open these doors very much because it's hitting the trailer there. There is a spare, which is a really nice feature. And I'm not sure if this is real wood or not, but it's very discolored from its age. And you could just hear every time I close the door, a little bit more rust falls out the bottom. I'll show you that in a second. As far as interiors go, it's classic Cadillac DeVille. This was not the best here Cadillac DeVille, but I don't mind this color. It's kind of like a navy, a few little rips here and there. Not bad, again, for 20 years old, and a rarity for an auction car. We have that's 3 keys on this one keychain plus 1 fob, and then in here is another 3 keys and a fob, so literally like 6 keys. It does start, it does run, it's nothing special. This is the Cadillac Northstar V8 that is prone to head gasket failure. I believe the head bolt's stretching it, and you have that whole entire mess. I don't know that this car has that, but when I bought it from the auction, it was listed as a mechanically damaged car, and I could show you a few obvious things. Number one, this tire is completely off the rim and just moving it a few feet, and yeah, you can't drive it, but that's an easy fix, right? You can also see one other cool thing with the center caps off. You notice how there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lugs. This is a specific wheel. When I bought this, one of my initial plans was to potentially put a set of like 20 or 22 inch wheels on it. And that would have not been a good idea, and you wouldn't have been able to, at least not easily. In the front end, again, it's pretty standard DeVille fare here. We got a droopy hood ornament, a little bit of tiny rust. This was an up north car. But overall, really, as far as the body condition goes, it's halfway decent. So again, mechanical damage when I bought it at the auction, and all that mechanical damage means, it could mean a bunch of things. It could mean you have rod knock, it could mean you have a failed engine, transmission, something like that. As far as I know, this car will run and drive. But the brakes are completely out. It's got brake pedal all the way to the floor, and it's leaking a fluid here very heavily. This is either some sort of oil or transmission fluid. But the really nasty, scary part of this one, I mean, just look at the amount of rust on the underside. This thing is, it's no wonder why they took this one out of commission. It's not fit for road use anymore. These things carry a lot of weight, specifically in the back end here. And I wanna see if I can open this enough to, oh look, I can get this one open all the way. I want to show you something my friend Rich from the channel Rich Rebuilds noticed when he was in town. He opened up this door, and you could see it's kind of a mess in here, and it doesn't smell particularly great, but where they cut this to make it the limousine, it is breaking apart. So this is really, really unfit for road use. There's another break up there. This hearse was cursed from the day it showed up. Now again, this is totally my fault, and like I talked about earlier, you gotta cut your losses when you realize you made a mistake. The mistake was bidding on and winning this car, and the way to have appropriately gotten out of it was to call the auction back up, tell them to resell it, where, hey, I might have sold it for the same amount of money I paid for it, broken even, maybe lost a couple $100. Since I paid for shipping and the car and the auction fees, I lost about $1,000 on the hearse, and that's not including some of the what we'll call unrelated expenses that came along with it. Now, I didn't spend a dime on the hearse itself, but again, like I said, when it showed up, I just started having a bunch of problems. And I'm blaming it on the hearse. Here, let me tell you real quick. The delivery driver, who I tried making contact with multiple times, just called me when they were here, and I said, well, I'm not even home. Let me get to you so I can help you get these cars off the truck. When I got to my house, he wasn't in my yard. He was in my neighbor's yard in an 18-wheeler. Completely destroyed his yard, and of course he's unloading cars in his grass and then driving them over to mine, which, hello guys, yeah, it's now my fault. My neighbor looked at me like I was a jerk, and I don't blame him. I made contact with him, and I paid out of pocket to fix his yard to the tune of a few $100s. There's no recourse for that on a truck driver. I wish there was, but no, not in this scenario. On top of that, the 335 was on the same transport truck that the hearse was on. When it drove off, the windshield was destroyed. And I'm sitting here going, like, this was not like this when you picked it up. And of course he goes, well, oh yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. But there's no proof on my end or his end that it wasn't. So again, I paid out of pocket $300 to get a new windshield. Right there, down another $500-600. Then on the day I went to get rid of it, drove the hearse up my driveway, and this thing is massive. Trying to put it on my trailer, you saw how much space it took up. I smashed into one of the fenders on the trailer. That would take just a little bit of a hammer and dolly and maybe repainting it in the nice red color. And last but not least, dropped the hearse at the auction. I'm thrilled. I'm ready to leave. Yeah, it's cost me some money, but it's out of my life. I'm driving, I'm about 2 miles away from home, and a guy stops me. He's waving out the window. I roll my window down. He goes, sir, your tire on your trailer, you know, it's just completely shredded right now. I swear I took the hearse off the trailer, so I saw my trailer. I didn't see any shredded tires. Was it the curse of this hearse that caused the blowout? Maybe, maybe not. Either way, it cost me $75 for a new tire mounted and balanced. And as you see, I still make mistakes when it comes to auction buys. Some of them turn out kind of fun, like the 550i, and you learn something from them, and some of them are total nuisance, like the hearse. And I made this video in particular because I posted a picture of the hearse on Instagram with a little bit of behind-the-scenes story as to how I bought it, and a lot of you showed interest in hearing the full story. And if you're not already following me on Instagram, you can go right here, click the link in the description box below, because that's where I'm posting a lot of the cars that I buy at auction before I make any videos of them here on YouTube. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a huge like, and I want to thank each and every one of you for watching today. I'll catch you very soon.